Hello, everybody.
You need an intro video, dude.
Yeah, we do.
Sorry.
We need an intro to Finance Junkies and on my other YouTube channel. The problem is, Andrew Schulz, very big flagrant comedy podcast. They used to have an intro video and they got rid of it 6 months ago. And I think the reason they got rid of it is because it decreased retention. Because those 5 seconds of introing shit, people were like, they just left.
Yeah.
Like it's actually crazy how, our attention spans are.
We used to have an intro. We used to have an intro, and you notice on the retention, when you look back, you can see everyone skipping it. Every single person is a massive dip.
Yeah. It's weird, man.
Outros are fine because they're already gone.
But the best way to do the outro is where you catch them before they know it's even happening. Mr. Beast does that so well. The video just ends before you even know it's ending.
Bro, did you see this video? First of all, welcome everybody to the Finance Junkies. Shout out to Ahad. CBZ3 gonna get some Cocoa Puffs. Yes, please go get some food. Relax. We're here to talk about stocks in the market. Did you see Mr. Beast's latest video? He took like a Ferrari. He took a train and ran it through a bunch of brick walls and shit. And he did like 10 crazy experiments, right? And I was just watching this shit like, this is stupid, bro. Like I was watching it thinking like, this is just dumb at this point. It's almost, it kind of made me, it delegitimized his brand a little bit for me. And I respect Mr. Beast more than a lot of people just because of what he's built. But I was like, this is just pointless content at this point. Like, I didn't really know what I was getting watching that other than this sensationalized, let's throw a train through a brick wall. So it's going to be interesting to see how he evolves. But it kind of turned me off. I was like, why did he upload this?
Graham Stephan did a great video with him where they went into how he
I saw it. I respect the crap out of Mr. B. Yeah, I was just like, at some level, like, do you just keep what's the difference between him and Jacko or Steve-O? Steve-O just did the crazy shit himself, whereas Mr. Beast doesn't like do the literal crazy shit. And Nate says, I totally disagree. I think it was a bunch of interesting things. Yeah, but Nate, you're also 19. I'm 25. I don't know. Maybe there's a difference.
Right. He's the old guy in the room.
Yeah, right.
Like, I feel like the older you get, the more you're like, this is kind of.
I don't know what you're talking about. I love Mr. Beast.
I do. Listen, I do too. And I love
you think you enjoy watching like a train go through a bunch of bricks? You think that's like a dope video?
I'm not saying that particular video is amazing, but I think just in general, he has interesting content. Like
I agree. My point is, at what level is he going to keep stepping it up to do even more crazier, stupider shit? Because at the end of the day, it's crazy, stupid shit, and it gets views. Right. Like, at what level do you kind of just like, what are you going to throw people off of a bridge?
I think when the money train stops, then Mr. Me stops making those videos.
He also does videos like where he won't sleep for X number of days.
And I respect,
you know what I mean? He put like testing David Blaine. Exactly.
Yeah, that shit is cool. But like this throwing a brick through, I was just like, I don't know. For me, it's just like, I don't know what the point of this was.
But ultimately, we're talking. That's what we started talking about. We didn't start talking about his human endurance. That's what sparked the conversation, right?
That's true. Like I respected when he counted from 1 to 100,000. That was pretty cool. A lot of people probably thought that was stupid. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, when he was getting the followers, he was trying to get people to follow.
2017.
Yeah. I forgot what that was.
All right, do you want to go on to the conversation we were having beforehand about like shorting and not shorting and why?
Yes,
let's start out. I thought this was Financial Junkies, not Social Media Junkies.
Yeah, I know. I had to move them over. You know what I'm saying?
Why should we not short Enphase? Because that motherfucker looks overvalued.
No, hold on.
But that's not how we started.
That's not how
it was just about shorting in general.
Shorting in general. Forget about a particular company like Lululemon.
Forget Natalie Lululemon Bear. I just
he wants to short them so bad.
Yeah. So what's the problem with shorting stock? Because okay, let's give it context. Right now, this market is kind of crazy, right? Actually, let me share this tweet to give some context. Our favorite bear, Puru, just tweeted something. He is short in the market right now. He said, Wall Street forecasting a 230 SPX price EPS in 2023. High likely EPS will decline 20% to 175 earnings per share of the S&P. Given rates in the history, SPX will likely bottom to around 14 to 15 times forward PE. Right now, it's about 18 times. Even under an optimistic scenario of a 200 earnings per share for the S&P in 2023 at a 15 times earnings, the S&P will hit a low of 3,000, which means if you take this in seriousness, you should short the S&P to make money as it comes all the way down. Why is that not a good idea, Vitaly?
Well, yeah, let me give you my thoughts on shorting. And it's not because I lost money originally when I shorted Square.
You did.
The real thesis is that I don't want to be on the wrong side of the long-term trade. And the long-term trade is obviously that the S&P is probably going to move up in the next decade, within the next decade, right? Does everyone here agree on this, or this is a major disagreement? I don't know. So if that's happening as the stock market tanks and you actually are not a fool and you left some money, some powder in the chamber, basically, you're supposed to be dollar cost averaging as any good investor into the market. So as it drops, right, you should be deploying capital to buy into the market. And I'm almost crying saying this, but
the thought of Enphase coming down.
So if you're shorting it, then you're betting actually you're on the wrong side of the trade in the long term, even in the medium short term. You basically want it to go down. So as it drops, you're actually not thinking about dollar cost averaging. And maybe there's some good investors that have been doing it for 20 years and they can do both and manage both in their heads and they don't get emotional about their investments and whatnot. I don't know many investors like that personally. So I think that if they're shorting it, they're probably just bearish and they're going to stay bearish for longer than they should, not dollar cost averaging into quality stocks. And that'll probably be me. If I'm on the other side of the trade, I want it to go down. Meaning if I'm shorting something like Square, I was shorting, I wanted it to go down. I wasn't thinking maybe I should dollar cost average that it's a reasonable price. I wasn't thinking that way. I was like, I just want this to go down. Why don't you go down? Okay, it's the pandemic. You should be going down. Stop making money.
Yeah, about Uber. We were like that with Uber.
And Lyft. So psychologically, when you want something to go down, do you think that fucks with your like?
Yeah, you don't want to buy into it. You don't want to buy into it. If you think Enphase should be worth $100, if you just go by PEs and it's 180, whatever right now, and you're like Enphase should be a 15 PE. What's going on? You know, Google is at 18. Enphase should be 15. Okay, it's not better than Google, obviously. So then you're waiting for some magical number like $80 or $100, and dude, you're never going to get it. That's the thing. So maybe you're going to be right in the interim and it'll go down to 280, 250, 220, 200, but you're never going to think about like buying it. You're not going to think because it's too expensive. It's always going to be too expensive for you. So it's a different mindset. And the way I make my investments mean something is I dollar cost average down. If something drops 20%, 30%, like Tesla's 50% down, I go heavier. That's the way I guess my short works out, where I just go heavier into a stock and my average comes down.
Okay. Any thoughts on that from Chris or Carlos?
I just also think it puts you, no matter what, if you're a long-term investor, once you go short, I think it puts you into a trader's mentality, because now everything in the short term becomes more important. And personally, like Vitaly was saying, if I'm studying a company enough that I want to short it, if I really want to get those shares, I feel like I can get those shares on the cheap, I would prefer to dollar cost average on the way down, instead of trying to basically amplify my money on a short bet that then hopefully I catch the bottom to then deploy that capital later. Most of the time, those strategies are not going to work. We just did a live about a couple hours.
I know, I was there.
Right. Okay. So that's a company. I mean, we learned so much from that. Like for me, what I'm taking away from that is like, you got to build in an extra additional 20% contingency on whatever you think the downside is, because we saw some of the signs, but it was way worse than we even expected. Right. And so I just think that you go into a short position, karmically, I think you're going into it the wrong way. I think it puts you into a trader's mentality. And I think if you're studying the company enough that you want to short it, you might as well just deploy that capital and buy the shares.
Yeah. To answer your point, if you're focusing so much on things going down, you're not actually focusing on what's going to happen after they go down. When they hit the bottoms, they go up. Okay. That is what eventually happens. And you're going to totally miss the biggest runs, because I forgot what the statistics were, but it's, what is it, 4 days, 5 days in the market where you make all your gains? It's something stupid. Like in 365
per
days.
Year, yeah.
It's 4 or 5 days. That's it. And Tom Lee keeps hammering this home. If you're not in this trade, you've missed out. That's it. You're missing out on all your gains. And then the returns of most investors, by the way, are total dog shit. They're negative because they miss out on those 4 or 5 days because they're always trading in and out of stuff. They don't know how to hold. I don't know. I know how to hold. Even when something's overvalued, I know how to hold. And it takes a long time to learn that. That wasn't day one. That took a long time.
That's very. I think you're absolutely correct. It takes a long time to learn that, because I didn't learn that if I just held the Tesla I bought pre split at 170, just held. I had nothing better to do at fucking 20 years old. I mean, I would be up a lot right now.
You'd be up 10x even now.
Yes, it's an expensive lesson. Also, I'm happy I learned it at 20. You know,
how many people do you know that have gotten rich, short selling? How many people do you know that have really gotten rich just buying puts and making money as things?
Yeah, how many billionaires are there running around that short?
It doesn't happen. People make money on gains. People make money by believing in thesis. People make money by researching good companies or finding a good startup that has a chance. You take a small piece of your portfolio, you dollar cost average in, and then you just hold. And if you have time on your side, if you're in your 20s and you're not looking at any of this money till you're 35, literally, there's no reason why anyone who's 25 years old right now watching with the good companies that they've been smashed right now, there's no reason why anyone right now in 10 years at 35 years old isn't a multi-millionaire.
And Michael Burry, by the way, I see the
cash right
comment, Farmer George, shout out because he's so good on our Discord. But Michael Burry did not become a billionaire shorting, okay? That's not what happened. He made hundreds of millions, don't get me wrong. But he did not become an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates or a Steve Jobs. That's not how it happens. You long something. That's how it happens.
Yeah.
I would say...
Okay, Chris, give us the negative.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying, first of all, retail investors shouldn't short. Most of the reasons why is because the mechanics don't necessarily work out, because when you're shorting, you know, a lot of times trades can go a certain way and things can be irrational longer than you expect. Most people don't have the capital requirements to keep going. Like, there's unlimited amount of risk when you're shorting, even if it's a sure thing. Like, you think that, wow, this company is overvalued, it can never go down. Like, I mean, it's going to go down, blah, 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 stuff. Like here's a good example. I think that Enphase is overvalued, but would I short Enphase? No, because it's still a profitable business. It's doing well. It's in a segment that's still growing, right? I do think that there will be a time where eventually that growth falls off and their valuation comes back down to earth, but I don't know when that is, right? So if you don't have any certainty behind it, all you're doing is, especially when you're shorting, a lot of people think that shorting is just, oh, you're shorting this company and that's it. Like, no, you have to pay fees too. Like, when you short, you have to pay fees. You're borrowing shares and you have to pay fees to borrow the share. So the entire time you're shorting, you're basically paying for the event to happen. So that's number one. Shorting is not for the retail investors. But I also think it's a fallacy that if you have made a significant amount of gains on this particular company and the overvaluation starts coming around, but you don't want to part with the opportunity of trying to go even further forward, it's not a bad idea to take a little bit of money off the top and buy some protective puts long term. I mean, think about it this way. I'm a young, healthy guy in my 30s, don't have any health issues, but that doesn't mean I'll walk outside without health insurance, right? So why would you, in your financial future, especially if it's an oversized position in your portfolio, why not buy some protective puts? This way you can sleep. Like, I have had in the past invested in companies that I know that had asymmetric return going into the future. But guess what? I was smart enough to say, you know what, in the short term, maybe there's a bad quarter. Maybe there's something that happens legislatively that ends up derailing this company's business. What's going to happen then? Well, you know what? Might as well just buy some long-term puts, right? In which case I'm protected on the downside. So even if the company 5X's, all I'm really losing is a little bit of premium that I paid for the puts that I bought, instead of having my portfolio get wiped out, right? So I would say for anyone investing, if you have done exceptionally well in one company, but you don't want to give up the potential for that company to keep doing more and better, guess what? Buy some puts. Why not?
I have a response to this. And one is, first of all, the puts, I assume you mean long-term puts, like 2 years. So those are pretty expensive. That's what you mean?
Well, it depends. It depends on how you do it. Okay.
But my point is puts, that could actually be very pricey, 30% or so, 40%. Yes. Especially for Enphase. It's very, very volatile in that. And I've looked at it.
Yeah. So let me just say one thing. And you're absolutely right. That is true. When you're looking at a company like Enphase, who has a lot of short interest on the other end,
there is not a lot of short interest, but okay.
No. I'm just saying that. Why are the options prices on the put side so expensive?
Because it's very volatile. That has nothing to do with the short interest. It's the volatility of the actual stock.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So you should even be more concerned because of the entire volatility part of it, right? Where you have to buy some
the volatility is what. Hold on.
That's the volatility you make money.
Is what we want. I want it up and down. That's what I want for the next 10 years. I want it to go up 100%, drop 50%, go up 100%, drop 50%. That's what I want. That's how I get more shares as I get more money and more capital. If it's always just going up, that's great. But then I can't dollar cost average into quality because it's just always going up. So I think you're wrong on that. Number two, besides this puts, I didn't finish that puts thing. If you buy the puts and you spend the 30, 40%, let's say 2 years passes, the stock didn't do shit. You just lost that 30, 40%. You have to buy more puts. You have to buy another 30% on puts for Enphase.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're saying that this company's theoretically going to 5X, right?
Like, I'm not saying it's happening tomorrow.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. But dude, if you're saying, but that's what I'm saying. If you have to give up a 20% for 2 years out, right?
Okay.
That is not a bad amount of yeah, go ahead.
I think that's wrong. I think you're thinking wrong.
Mhm.
The better thing to do is the way I was going to respond to you is that what I have actually done is I have sold shares. I have taken a lot of capital that I deployed when it was around the $20 to $100. I've taken that out already. I'm riding on the market shares right now. So I think that's a better thing to do and deploy it into other stocks which are down, like Google, Tesla. So I've been doing that as well. And I plan to do it further if it keeps running up. So I prefer that over the put strategy because of that very thing, that it'll keep costing me money and I'm on the wrong side. The right side of Enphase, and we'll go into some detail, is that it's going up. Whether it's going down tomorrow, I don't know. That's probably going to happen eventually. But in the next decade, I bet you anything, I'm going to walk with that investment securing my financial freedom. I have no doubt about this. And maybe I'm being too cocky about this, but if solar is a real thing, and I am not delusional that this is happening, I know there's two players. That's it. There might be a third player eventually, but that's not going to happen for years and years and years. So I think I will be right for years and years and years on the actual growth of this industry. Short term, yes, this can get cut in half. That's why do I need to? I'd rather buy more. Let it get cut in half. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
I want it to get cut in half. This is what nobody understands. Like, if you actually think something is quality, you want to buy it when it drops.
Unless you found the company when it was like at $1, which I think we looked at charts together when it was at $1, where you can accumulate the massive amount of shares. You need time to build these positions. That volatility gives you time. And actually, if you're already sitting on a big position and what you're trying to do is make money, when it runs up to where it is now, and you're like, Amit, it's not going to 400. Well, then just sell a bunch of calls. Just sell a bunch of call outs against your shares.
So that's the advice that I would. That's the mechanically.
Then you're the
that's
casino. You know what I mean? Then you're the casino.
I would, and this is just me saying this. Part of my position, I would actually sell covered calls on deep in the money and use the premiums to buy up some of the puts. So this way, what happens is longer term, I'm going to be covered. Huh?
I said you're back to puts.
Yeah, wait. So you would
made the money to buy
the money from the covered calls to buy puts.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
I would.
I think you're protected. I think I hear an echo, by the way. Someone has their thing on.
Yeah, someone. It might be you, Chris, or it might be Carlos.
No,
it wasn't me because I was muted.
I actually have headphones on.
Yeah,
Okay, it's gone.
But first of all, I get what you're saying. You're actually doing a very like a hedge fund strategy sort of thing, and I understand that. But we're not a hedge fund. We're individual retail investors, and the only way we get to escape the 9 to 5 is by going long. We're not going to escape it by going short. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, but Vitaly, one of the benefits that you guys have as being a retail investor is that you don't have literally the liquidity problems that a hedge fund would. So an example is if a hedge fund is buying 50 million, like let's say 5 million shares of Enphase, it's really hard for them to move that kind of volume in terms of puts, right? You guys are going to have much smaller position, which means that you can mechanically do this without taking the exceptional risk that they would by trying to actually get this trade enacted. So all I'm saying is it's just something that, especially if you have done really well on a stock, it's worth considering, right? Because if you're thinking that the return is going to be so exceptional, right? If it's going to, let's say, 5x, it's not a bad idea to take a little bit off the top, use it to buy yourself some comfort at the bottom. I've had this happen to me a couple of times where I've been super bullish on a company, right? I think that it's going to be a 5xer, but what if it doesn't happen? What if there's something that comes wrong that ends up going the other way? Right now,
I sold the shares.
Yeah.
I already said that. I've sold the shares and deployed it into other investments. So that's my way of, I guess, doing a put.
Do you have any stop losses, Vitaly, on your Enphase position?
No, if I did that, they would all be gone. Have you seen the stock?
Yeah, with the volatility, it's not a good idea.
You would be out of that position because it literally moves 50, 60, 70% down over like this year. It's moved twice over 50%, at least that, if not 3 times. So you would be out. You would lose all your shares, bottom line.
And why do you think it's moving like this so much?
Well, because, okay, so anything in a high growth area that's on an S curve, anything. Tesla too, by the way, this is what's going on. Same thing. It has this super volatility.
But Tesla has like millions and millions of people interested in it, right? Enphase doesn't have that.
That happened recently. We're talking about even back then. Tesla was 400 to 200, back to 400 to 200. So that's very volatile. That's like 100%, 50% down, 100%, 50%, right? So while that's happening, you could be stopped out in 1,000 times and always be trying to get back in. That is the wrong way to long-term invest in and that's something you believe in, that's actually changing the world. Okay. Like I keep going back to the thesis. If I was investing only in a shit stock like FUV, which we discussed earlier, and then I did not hedge, or which I didn't do, by the way, that was my mistake, and didn't sell at the top, that's where the problem comes in. But I'm not investing in a shit stock in terms of Tesla and Enphase. Those are literally changing the world and are in a massive S curve straight to the moon. So if you don't see that, then I can't help you guys see that, because that's just obvious to me. And I think to Carlos too, you know?
Okay, so speaking of Tesla, let's get into this one. We don't have to get political, but you'll see my question in a little bit. Elon said, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Scott Kelly says, Elon, please don't mock and promote hate towards marginalized communities. Elon says, I strongly disagree, forcing your pronouns upon others, blah, blah, blah. Like, so
oh my God,
no one needs to get their political opinion involved. My question to you guys who are ultra Tesla bulls, Chris and me aren't ultra Tesla bulls. I have some shares. I don't know. Chris, do you have any Tesla shares at all?
Yeah, I do.
Chris has some. Okay, but you guys obviously have a lot more. Is this good for the stock, what he's talking?
No.
I mean,
No.
this stuff, like whether you like it or agree with it or not, the LGBT community is a real community that is not going to find it nice when someone says, like, pronouns don't matter, right? And so it, like, and they buy shares, they buy stock, right? Like, so how do you feel about Elon just willy-nilly tweeting this stuff and really offending a lot of people, quite frankly?
This is why you buy puts. This is exactly why you buy puts.
Wait, do you have puts? Do you have puts on Tesla?
No, I don't.
Why?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because it's not an outsized position for me. Like, it's literally like I have less than 2-3% of my portfolio is Tesla. If it ends up being like here's the way that I buy puts. Okay, if it becomes like, let's say 5% of my portfolio or above, then it makes sense for me to buy the puts, right? But if it's something that it takes a lot of confidence for me to go to like 5 to 10% before. But there are times where I do get that level of confidence. So if I go to the point where I'm risking a lot, then yes, to sleep better at night and to make sure that my account doesn't blow up, I'll buy some puts. But if it's a small position on a company that's I'm speculating on, it's not worth it to do that. So like right now, even if like Tesla goes to zero tomorrow, it wouldn't impact me whatsoever. So it's not something I do. Whereas like right now, I have some of my money in the S&P 500, an index fund, which is close to maybe 20% that, yeah, I'm hedging on just in case Puru's right. You know,
in your past, has that worked out historically?
Yes. Yeah.
Like
okay, so let's talk about Tesla. That's the question. The question is about Elon. What do we think? Is this good or bad?
Bad.
I mean, from PR's perspective, it's horrible, man. I mean, regardless whether or not you agree with his stance, what ends up happening is now people that want to do business with Tesla, like counterparties, they have to think twice, because now they're going to be associated to that kind of thinking, right? So people are going to say that, look, Tesla is a company that CEO is intolerant to other people's views. Like,
why do we think he's so keen on putting this information? Like, why is he being like this is my question. Like, why does he give a fuck? This dude is like changing the world. Why is he getting involved in political garbage? Like, what's the point of this?
I think just because he's the head of several companies, it doesn't mean that he's not allowed to have an opinion, right? Is that what we're saying?
But like, why are you're offending gay people for like no reason? Like, why are you doing that?
Well, it's not gay people; it's transgender people. Let's clarify that. Okay?
Yeah, but they're part of the LGBT community. And again, you don't have to get political about it. But like, why are you doing it?
Look, to keep it not political, right? If I'm looking, if you believe in Tesla and you believe in that story, then all of this, it represents an opportunity. There's a minimum price that Tesla needs to hit for me to sell a single share. And this gives me the opportunity to buy these shares at a discount now, because right now
he's doing this for shareholders. He's trying to give you guys a better price. That's
I'm saying that. Look, I'm not saying he's doing it. I'm not saying he's doing it for that reason. But what I'm saying is that all of this stuff matters until it doesn't, right? So if Tesla misses something in the fourth quarter and their stock gets hammered, then we're going to keep talking about how Elon and the effect of Twitter. But there'll be a point, we don't know when it is. Maybe it's when the Cybertruck is released. Maybe it has something to do with the bot. Maybe it has something to do with FSD. But there comes a tipping point when Tesla's lead and their dominance is just undeniable. At that point, Wall Street's just going to forget about whatever they're talking about now, and they're going to equally reward the way that they're punishing now. And I just want to have the biggest bag possible when that happens. So for me, again, not keeping it political or talking about what Elon should do or not do. If Tesla stock is trading lower than it should be because of a pile-on that's happening in mainstream media, then I'm just going to keep buying shares.
Yeah. So Elon, I don't know if you remember, but he's always been similar to this. It's just now he has a bigger audience because now he has more money, and Tesla has proven to be successful. 4 years ago, people were discussing Elon, but not to the same extent that it's on the
Yeah.
news every day. So
Yep.
basically, he's always been amplified, and he's always been this way. And now that he's a multi-billionaire, I don't think he sees it as anything different because he has the same people telling him, "Hey, Elon, it's okay, you're winning." You know what I mean? When someone always tells you you're winning and you're always winning, then I think you feel like you have a right to do that. Like he has a right. But there's a second reason. And I think he's a smooth operator too. I think he understands that he needs to keep Twitter in the public eye.
Mhm. That's what I was going to say.
And-
He's acting like Trump on Twitter without Trump being on Twitter.
Exactly.
But there's also, and I don't know again how you guys feel politically, but I also feel like the woke movement pendulum is moving a little bit too far, even for the most wokest of woke, where it's just getting a little too far. And I think what he's doing is
I agree.
poking fun out of it. I think a lot of
Yeah.
times people take him. It's what they used to say about Trump, right? They take him literally when he shouldn't be taken seriously, and they take him seriously when he shouldn't be taken literally. I forgot how it exactly goes. I think a lot of times his humor doesn't translate over Twitter, and people may think that he's absolutely serious. I think he's just poking fun at some of the woke culture, and there's really nothing more than that. But I think we give it much more weight than it carries because he is the CEO of Twitter and he's a billionaire, right? But if he was still, in other words, if he tweeted this in 2018, would anyone care? Probably not.
No, I think Vitaly's point is correct. He's trying to make Twitter more and more popping every day.
I
That's
think
it.
he's
Working.
I think
Well,
he's
it
just
brings
front
it up.
running. I think he's just front running what the counter narrative is, right? What happens is you want to be on the forefront of the movement towards the counterculture rather than be behind it. So
Towards the
we've
center.
seen,
Towards
yeah.
the center
So
again.
so what we're seeing right now is this transition right now, and it's happening all over the world with all over the industries. Where yes, you're right, the woke left have really gone a little bit too far, and there's a lot of backlash. So it's kind of weird, but right now Elon is part of that counterculture, that movement away from the normalcy. So a lot of the LGBTQ stuff, they ended up becoming so strong with their message that they kind of started to bridge the lines between what's okay and what's really not okay, right? There's actually like it's gotten to the
I think we should change
yeah.
subjects.
yeah. No. Let's just finish.
I was
this
just
and
about
then
to
we
ask
can
for
go.
an example, and
Where
I'm
is this
like,
guy
no,
going?
I would say.
So here we
hold
go.
on,
We're
hold
gonna
on.
Yeah,
go.
This
we're
is
gonna
not
go there.
gonna-
We're gonna go there.
This is
Chris
not going
at
to be no.
financejunkies.com.
No, this
All hate mail to him.
Can you put his email on screen?
no, this is not like the base Pepe podcast. Don't worry, it's not going there, right? But at the same time, I
I think four dudes like us should not be
Yeah.
Getting too far into this.
And because we're not political, right? That's why I
yeah.
said it's not.
I
it's
didn't
really
say
just
straight.
about
I don't know
him.
what I meant and Chris
Right.
are.
But you know what?
No.
You know what? Even the fact that you feel like you need to say that, Vitaly, even the fact that you feel you need to say that, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Don't you think that that's part of the problem?
Yeah,
No,
of course
yeah.
it is. Of course,
That we
it is.
feel like we
so.
have to be worried about speaking your mind and just saying what you think, right?
Yeah.
I
And I
don't know.
think this-
I don't feel
yeah.
I know enough even to be intertwined into that whole community. I'm not part of it at all. So I don't know. Like Elon is sort of making problems for himself that he doesn't have to. But once again, I think it's also
that's
a
my
PR thing.
point. Elon's a business guy. He should talk about
Yeah.
business, talk about tech, talk about optimistic futures, but he's getting involved into stupid politics.
Yeah,
Which,
it's dumb. That's the
you know,
problem.
it's dumb.
If it was
It's
smart,
there is one
It's just
argument
dumb.
there is one argument that I'm going to make right now. Most of the people that have been buying Teslas have been on the left, right? With environmental, they're willing to pay a price on it. Right now,
I don't know if that's
Elon-
true, Chris.
Hold on.
'cause I don't know
Elon
if that-
is No,
I
it
think
is.
it is, dude.
Elon now is trying to go after a new segment of people. Like, dude, you know how many people on the right wing right now love Elon Musk to
Are
death?
gonna buy that
Who-
Cybertruck?
Exactly. They're
As long
just
as they
like,
buy
oh,
the
you know what?
Cybertruck, I'm okay
I
with
was
it.
for the last 25 years, I've been buying nothing but the F-150. But you know what? Ford keeps doing all this LGBT performative stuff on Twitter, whereas Elon is on my side. Let me vote with my dollars and buy a Tesla truck, right? So maybe that's what he's trying to do. Maybe it's an angle that he's trying to play.
The reason I said you might be wrong is because aren't rich people more conservative?
No,
Like aren't there
no.
more conservative rich
Yes.
people in America than
No,
liberal
in general,
rich
as you
people?
get older, they say as you get
Mhm.
older,
It's true.
you get more conservative.
happened
And
to
in
me.
general, as you get older, you get
Yes.
richer.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like people that buy Teslas are, I don't know. I kind of feel like they're more rich than not, which means they might be more Republican than not, even if they're not outwardly Trump supporters.
Well,
or
not in
anything like that.
California.
No,
Yeah,
no.
definitely not in California. Definitely not.
It's true. I
There's-
felt the change in my 30s.
There's it's if you vote Democrat in your if you're voting Republican in your 20s, you're heartless. If you're voting Democrat in your 30s, you're brainless. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's smart.
Okay.
Smart.
So that was the Elon Twitter stuff. What was the other thing we wanted to touch on?
Oh, I did want to share because
Okay, go ahead.
there's a lot of bears still on Enphase, so I just want to share a video. Have you guys ever heard of the IEA? I think I'm saying this right. EAI. Let me check this out. What are they
No.
called?
Are you talking about the International Atomic Energy Commission?
The International Energy Agency. They came out with a report about solar, not particularly about Enphase. Do you guys want to discuss that?
Yeah, go
Let's
for
do
it.
it. Let's do it.
How do I share? Let me see. Or do I
You
just
press
send you the
this
link?
button called share.
Well, no, I got to share sound
it
too. That's the
shares.
thing.
Yeah, it's called present, and then
It's called
you share the
present,
tab.
actually, yeah.
Share system audio, and then boom, you got it.
Let me see if I can.
And then you got it. By the way, as we wait, this show is sponsored by Carlos's supersexy.com because Carlos is super sexy. Okay, here we go.
Now, well, I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear this?
No, you you have to press a share tab audio. So unshare the thing. And then when you press present and press share screen in the bottom left corner, it says share system audio on StreamYard.
Here, why don't I just send you the link?
Yes, and I'll just do it.
At some point, we
Carlos.
should answer this question of the title. Is it time for the stock market to crash?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I had to
well,
figure out a
we can answer
title.
that
and I was
after.
like,
I
I'm
just
saying,
wanted
yeah,
to-
but at some point.
And I got some. Go ahead, bring it up, and you can go to 712 first. So this is an actual agency that studies these things about energy, all energy, not just solar energy. And this is their words, not mine. Once again, who knows if anything will happen in the next two weeks? I have no idea, but
This is a Vitali deep fake.
Go to 712.
yo, this guy's name is Fatih Bir. I thought it said Faith Birol. I was like, he has a lot of
Yeah.
faith in Enphase or something. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Nothing to do with Enphase.
Mr. Bahar, who is in charge of this report, will tell you some of the numbers. Again, renewables are breaking records after records, but I wanted to share one of them with you, which I found very impressive. In the year 2027, in 5 years of time, the latest solar, I'm not saying renewables altogether, only solar will be the #1 source of electricity in the world.
Did you hear what he said?
So solar is and will be the king of global power.
He's saying in 2030 that's happening.
5 years, 2027.
#1
market.
source of
So
energy.
this is
Okay,
very
so
impressive.
don't worry
It is
about
very-
that. You can put a link. Go skip to now 1444. This is the thesis that plays out. Remember, which side do you want to be on? And do you want to miss it? That's the question everyone should be asking themselves.
drive our forecast upwards.
Turn up the volume.
When we look at the deployment by country and region, we see basically China continuing to lead renewable capacity expansion in the next 5 years, accounting for almost half of every single renewable energy plant that will come online by 2027. This is an important acceleration compared to previous 5 years. When we look at Europe, we see a more than doubling of the growth during the forecast period. And this unprecedented growth is adding into a context of stable expansion over the last decade, which means that energy security really triggers in our forecast an incredible amount of additional capacity.
So remember that energy
combined
security is
with,
now a big thing.
ambitious climate targets that European Union has. A similar situation in the United States. Policy certainty by the Inflation Reduction Act for the first time, long-term extension of incentives for all renewables, including deployment and manufacturing.
So
will
we
lead
don't have to listen to the whole
this,
thing. These guys are boring to death. But anyone who's
This is the shit you find on YouTube on Friday nights, and you binge this to justify your Enphase thesis.
Well, no, but show that last chart and just skip to the end. Just look at what's going on for the 2022 to 27 in solar. And if you can show the chart, just skip a couple of frames. No, not that far, not that far. Just this chart, previous, back. Well, that was a good chart too, but just go back a little bit. There you go. Basically, they're saying it's doubling, and these guys have been always conservative with their estimates. So if they think this is happening from all the data they've collected, right? Like, so back to Chris, why do I need to hedge anything if this is actually what's happening? Unless there's a possibility it's not happening. So once again, I don't feel like I personally need to hedge. Carlos, when you look at this, what do you think? Do you feel like hedging?
No, I feel as you do, that I think that's the time to just continue to accumulate while the public gets educated on where this stuff is going. This information's out there, but it's not reaching the masses. I think the more that we have these conversations with people, it's boring. It's very techie, but I think the more that we talk about this with people, the more I realize we are still so early. Like, I keep thinking we're here in the S curve, and we're actually a lot earlier than we are. And this is, again, why I just keep the shares where they are. Enphase is a little bit too high right now. When that pullback eventually happens, because the stock price is different from the company, that's when I will continue to dollar cost average.
Okay. GS Strategy said I'm not being logical, first of all.
Hold on.
I was buying at $20. How is it going to 280? Anything that concerns me? Like, there's zero concern that it's going to 280. In fact, that's not low enough. I'm saying I want it at 200.
Under 200, yeah. Under 200.
I'm saying I need it to go to 200.
So one of the things that you guys are conflating, that, oh, this is solar EV. I mean, solar PV is going to get that high. That's a projection right there. But you're saying that Enphase is the one that's going to be able to capture that market fully, and that they're going to be able to
Solar Edge and Enphase. I've said this for
residential.
Right now, there's only two players that are so big that they're recognizable, right? And that they're more on the residential side. But guess what? Whenever an industry, especially one that moves so quickly towards one thing, and the growth is there, that means the other entrants are likely to make their way into the market. Now, do I think that Enphase is doing very well with their market share currently? Yes. Do I think Solar Edge is doing the same thing? Totally agree with you guys. I'm not saying they're not. But guess what? Competitors are going to be there, especially because they don't have, much less a differentiated product that can't be commoditized. I've seen microinverters all around, like, starting to show up with other companies, newer ones coming out, and they're actually coming out with prices that are way more compelling than what Enphase has. Enphase definitely has the quality behind their name. They're actually they're much better in terms of reputation, the quality, and the execution. But guess what? As more entrants come in, that also compresses your margin, right? And that's the thing that I would say is worth looking at. Right now, they have a significant first to market advantage. They got into this market with microinverters when a lot of people didn't think that this was the one that you wanted to be with, right? And they were able to capitalize on that. And their market share right now is significant. It's the same thing that happened with BlackBerry and smartphones, where they had an 80% market share, and then they took their eyes off the ball for a few years, and Apple just went right ahead and took them to the woodshed, right? So my thing is, asymmetrically, I hope you guys are right. But what if you're not? So that's why you have to put in some puts.
I just have to interject this. The difference is BlackBerry and Apple were selling directly to consumers, right? So Apple can come in and sell a cheaper phone and get that consumer. Enphase's customer are solar installers, not the people, not the residential person at the other end. And so these solar installer companies, their business is the success of their business is leveraged by the products that they sell and how they're able to service those, right? So once you grab, and look, you can look on our channel, we've done several interviews with some of the leading solar installers, both in the US and in Australia. We talked to the number one installer. They all say they're not changing from Enphase. Why? Because they know that product. They have a great relationship with Enphase, the company, right? So if they have an issue, it's taken care of right away, and they go back to having happy customers.
Why can't there just be another company that does
more than that?
Because it's very hard. And I also said, like, I have worked for companies like this before. In another life, I worked for an alarm and camera install company, and we were that company. And we got pitched all the time.
Yeah, but making phones is also really hard, and Apple figured it out.
No. Okay.
I feel like this is a very generic statement that it's hard.
It's who is Enphase's customer. It's not the end user.
What is that? But if I can just market to the same customer if I have a better product.
No,
or
no. I'll give you an
shipping. I don't know
example.
why that's
First, so let me give you a concrete example. I think Carlos he knows I know what he's saying, but he thinks he's missing a step. Imagine you have this business where your job is to go out and install these solar panels and microinverters on someone's house. Okay.
Yes.
Imagine you have Enphase and they take care of everything. They pick up your calls in 2 minutes. They cover you for 25 years. They'll pay you to go fix anything that's wrong. And then on top of it,
your guys, right?
the actual item itself does not go bad and is less than 0.01% failure rate, something small, something tiny. So you don't have a truck roll. And all of a sudden, a new guy comes in and says, oh, here, use my microinverter. They're like, well, how do you have any data showing that you've been doing this for 10, 15 years? Well, no, we just started. But we want
what if they're better? What if they're better?
Okay. So
what's better in that sense?
What's better? Yeah.
But we didn't think an iPhone could beat a BlackBerry, but they like. I'm just saying.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. That's a mistake. When the iPhone first one came out, there were lines waiting out the wazoo to get an iPhone, and I was on that line getting an iPhone and not a BlackBerry. Okay, so yes, we did. It's clear which products are better. It's a fallacy to say it's not. Okay, just like a Tesla is better than any car if you actually drive it. It's just better. I can't explain it. You didn't drive it yet, but it's just better.
I did. I drove your Tesla. You don't forgot this?
Oh yeah.
Right. This is when you told me to buy Enphase at 140 in the car.
Is it better?
Whatever. It was good. It was good, but I never drove a Lucid. I never drove a
but once, okay, so my Tesla is $60,000 and the Lucid is 140. Now you're comparing something totally different. Now you're in a different class of person. So
but even taking that example, if someone gives you, if you had a chance to buy a Model S or a Lucid, the Lucids technically say a little faster, this and that. What about all the other back end part? What about all the other back end stuff? Whether it be updates or just having security that the company's going to be around, servicing.
So basically, you're saying Chris's bear case of a competitor is basically non-existent. That's your argument
at this point. Yes.
Even if it is, let me take his side because I like to do what is it? 10th man. Let's 10th man this.
10th man it.
Let's say this happens. It's the same case for Apple. Let's say there's a better competitor to Apple iPhone. It's still going to take a good 5 to 10 years to get Apple out of that system, right? So like, I mean, Microsoft has the worst operating system. We're still using it. All right. So whatever. We're AT&T.
They couldn't even replace their own OS.
I still keep talking about AT&T. Who uses AT&T? I don't know, but they're still around making billions of dollars. My point is it's really hard to get that out of the system. So let's say I'm going to take Chris's bear case. Do you not think I have 5 years of making doubles and doubles and doubles while some other competitor tries to come up? And has to break in. They have to break in. They have to do everything that Enphase did for over a decade. Like you're ignoring. It's the same thing when Carlos talks negatively about Meta and says Apple's coming in with a product the next day, and we know that's not happening the next day. That's going to take 5 years to play out to beat the Oculus. That's not a one-day thing. That's going to take years and years. It's the same thing. It can't happen in 6 months. That's not the way this works.
No, and I do agree with you on that, but there are some other things that you have to take into consideration also, like the total addressable pool of people trying to put up solar panels right now has been really favorable for Enphase. As those customers go, you start getting them, you're actually running into the problem of limitations on the total amount of customers that can actually come in. The other thing is
penetration, dude.
Well, hold on. Just wait. Just let me make a case, and then you guys could tear it up, right?
Okay.
One of the things that they benefited, one of the reasons why they benefited significantly over the last 2 years is that. And based on the research that I did was that there's been a lot of loosening of finances to get solar panels. Like a lot of people have been taking on loans at really cheap prices, and that it made sense to go with solar versus a grid solution where you're still getting your energy from the grid. One of the problems that I'm seeing in the solar industry is now with higher interest rates, people can no longer make that gap profitable for them. So right now, if you're paying and we saw that with SoFi's personal loans, 12% to finance these solar panels on your roof. That's a really hard thing for people to do, right? So the equation that, hey, I can go solar and replace my electric bill goes out the door. So right now, the credit conditions are much tighter than what they were a year ago to 2 years ago.
All right, let's answer that one at a time because I might as well answer it. You're right about the loans. If it was a standalone thing where loans were going up by themselves, I think you have a very valid point. And I would be more worried that Enphase should be $100, but energy at the same time has gone up basically double,
right?
Like, meaning gas and oil. That's one thing. The second thing, you're forgetting that there's the Inflation Reduction Act that's going into effect. Well, it's already in effect for solar. You have a 30% tax credit. On top of that, you still don't know that New Jersey gives you, which I am in, and New York gives you credits too, but New Jersey gives you something called a T-REC and an S-REC. They will pay you money. The polluters will have to pay you money on top of this 30% credit every month because they're polluters and you're not. There's all these things happening that you're ignoring because I don't know why, but
it also
things
just
going on at the
pushes-
same time.
It's also pushing your break-even point. It's also pushing your break-even point a little further down. You're right if you're paying more for the loan, but at a certain point, if the equipment is given to you, you are generating power indefinitely. Say 25 years. Say none of the end-phase products are going to break.
It's less than 10 years you're paid off.
I would not cite legislative things to be like, okay, yeah, in terms of business, these things can be reversed at any time in a Congress. Like right now, Republicans have taken the House. You never know if they're going to reverse a lot of these decisions. So a lot of stuff that you're seeing, you have to be. I would say that if you're going to invest in a company like this, you have to be very observant of the political end of things too. Because if things go the other way, where a lot of these things get sunset, right? Like right now, a lot of solar was actually with the Jobs Act renewed and carried forward. But guess what? You're starting to see right now with Tesla, right? Where the EV credits started to kind of diminish and go down. And can Tesla, can a lot of these ESG products survive
Tesla's
without that legislative
backing.
backing?
So I don't know what you're saying. Tesla has been removed from the ESG index.
Yeah.
So it's
right. No, I'm just saying anything that's environmental and green. I'm just saying environmental and green. A lot of it has been pushed legislatively, right? If it wasn't for legislative support, could these industries stand on their own? Right. That's the.
I like that you say that, and I saw a comment coming through like, so solar is subsidized, dude. Oil is subsidized. I mean, like, all energy is subsidized in some respect, and has been for the last 100 years in America. So I don't know where all this is coming from. Obviously, it's coming from the oil lobby telling us that solar is bad because they're losing out. But the same thing's been going on for 100 years with oil and gas. Okay, and it was easy when they were just fighting it between the two of them. But now there's this third player who's winning. Because the difference, and I went to this last time, this is obvious. Anytime you can manufacture anything, the price will go down. Okay? Anything, any widget.
In a factory, yeah, when you can make
any widget you can make in a factory and more people will buy it, that price will go down. You cannot do that for oil. You cannot say the same thing. We don't manufacture it. We have to go dig it. We have to go find it. So it's totally different. That's why the financial dynamics are totally different. But Chris still has a point. I agree with him. Next year, Republicans come in and say, we don't want to give a 30% tax credit. He's absolutely right. There could be a total hit there. So I do see your point in that. But that's not the current state of affairs. So can't I wait? Let me wait until that actually starts to happen in some respect before I start being a bear on solar. Because right now, there's nothing that shows me that.
To that point, though, almost any industry is subjected to the same thing. You can just pick any random company, and you can always point to some sort of legislation headwind or tailwind that could flip. It's just every. In other words, every business is open to that. So what we're saying is that it's essentially just a business, because any business is susceptible to that. It's not just solar, right?
And that's exactly why I'm such a bull with Meta, because I've been pushing the narrative, right? That I'm starting to see that TikTok is starting to become a lot more of a target for legislators to go after, right? So now if I'm thinking, hey, one of Meta's biggest competitors in the social media space ends up getting knocked out or slowed down, what does that do? That just means that the product the Meta is selling is actually going to be worth more, right, going forward. So I think, and this is where I'm glad we brought up the Elon conversation, because it just shows you that when you're investing in companies, don't just look at the company's financials. Look at the macro and the economic situation that the government, and also some of the news and some of the PR that comes out when you're making your investing decisions, because that will help you on the macro level. Because I think a lot of investors, they only purely look at the numbers. They have like this tunnel vision, like, oh, this company does this, blah, blah, blah. That's it. And there's no way that things can go up or down. No, you look at things holistically, because there can be things that change, that end up that break your thesis or actually support your thesis to another degree. I think for me right now, someone asked like what my biggest position is. It's not my biggest position yet. I'm still mostly in cash, because I think we're in a really bad position for the short term, very short term. I think we're close to the bottom, not necessarily at the bottom, but it would have to be Meta. I think Meta has the best growth prospects of any of the major FANG companies, because they have such a tremendous reach. Like their business hasn't nearly deteriorated to the level that justifies the 70% discount to what it's worth right now.
Let's go to that in a second, but I want to answer some of these comments coming through saying that Enphase is overvalued. Yeah, I'm actually saying I'm not buying Enphase. I've said this 10,000 times already. I'm not buying it right now. I'm waiting for it to dip, to crash, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm just not shorting it. That was my only thing in the beginning. I'm buying it at lower prices. And I'll tell you, I've said this already multiple times. My price is 220 and under. That's when I'm actually dollar cost averaging again into Enphase. But am I rushing out of the door? No. If it goes up a little bit more higher, I might sell a little bit more shares to offload into Tesla. I just want to be clear. I am not recommending everyone go buy Enphase now at all-time highs. That is not what I'm recommending. I don't think any of us, but I'm saying that this industry itself over the next 5 years will do very well. And that's the one thing that I think gets lost in the weeds when Chris talks about doing these short-term puts, right? That he's forgetting that the whole world is changing towards this thing. And people are coming around to it like the IEA, okay? And the government is doing subsidies, which people think is a bad thing now. For oil, it's okay, but subsidies for solar. So I'm just pointing out all these things that are happening. How you treat that information, I don't want you guys to then point out, you told me to buy Enphase at 380. I did not say that, okay?
Well, they also passed a law, I think it was 2020 or 2021, that all new construction in California has to have solar. Now, the size of those solar systems can vary, but that means that all new constructions between now and forever have to have some sort of solar on it. I just think you're missing the fact that if you're a builder, if you're a company that builds apartments or builds homes, and now you need to put solar on everything, obviously you get things at a bulk discount. So if you're buying massive quantities of these inverters to put on roofs on all the properties that you own, I mean, it gets really hard for someone else to penetrate that. And now you've got these systems that are now deployed for, say, the next 10, 15, 20 years. So you've got 10, say 15, 25 years before they need to be replaced, before you're even on the market looking for them again. This is a counter to what you're saying about legislation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Can we talk about CPI? That's on Tuesday.
Sure.
Do we think it's going to be below 7.7?
Probably.
Or
Dude,
what if it double dips?
7.7.
What if it's
definitely
not,
below
bro? What if it's not?
It's definitely below 7.7. Look at the used car market. Look at transports right now. That's almost a quarter of your CPI. You're definitely going to see a reduction. The question is, are we going to see 7.1 or the market estimate of 7.3? I think we'll see somewhere in the middle with 7.2, right? The question that I have is more the next day, where how is Powell going to interpret that number? Is he going to say, we're doing really good with the progress, but we need to stay on it because we don't want like the deceleration in rate increases to end up like to backfire on us and inflation starts to climb again, right? So it's going to be not so much about Tuesday's meeting that I'm concerned with. It's more likely Powell's comments on Wednesday, because I think we've seen this sort of a bear market rally. And if it wasn't for the last week and a half, 2 weeks of the market going down, I think Powell would have been like, oh, here we go. Here it comes. I got to knock these guys down again and make them realize that the market is still tight, you know? So I think right now I'm going to be concerned more on Powell's messaging rather than the inflation number that's coming out, which, by the way, I think is around 7.2.
Okay, before we continue, and I have a response, but Matt Money said the funniest thing. I've lost more money than you'll ever have at Futbugger.
Yo, so shout out to Matt. I was going through his old videos.
I think that's hilarious.
bro, Matt is down a house right now. Like, that's how rich this guy is, bro. I would like he makes
good.
like
Well,
multiple six figures off his dividends. Like,
so he's gonna be down 2 houses soon.
yeah, it's gonna be this market's
all right. Okay, the CPI thing. Just to
hold on. I was listening to a socialist today. Okay,
were you?
They were explaining. I didn't know this. This was actually very interesting. It's probably a stupid idea, but I didn't realize it. The Fed didn't raise interest rates when there was a recession during the when FDR was president and when Richard Nixon was president, and we had high inflation, higher than we had today. The Fed did two other things. They did wage price freezes and general consumer price freezes. So like if you're making $30 an hour right now, the federal government mandated back in those two presidencies, I know it was a different time, but still that you can't make more than $30 to stop a wage price spiral. And they set the cost of goods at a certain floor. And they also did rationing. So the argument from the socialists was like, instead of having all this unemployment from Fed interest rate hikes to stop inflation, what if we did some of that stuff we did in the past? Were there any thoughts on that? Do you think that's a stupid idea?
That's not gonna happen.
There was a capitalist to rebut his arguments and said, you're a fucking idiot. But
yeah, that's not going to happen.
That's the dumbest.
It sounds good, but
it's actually what my parents would say to me, that this country is becoming too socialist. That's
Price controls don't work, dude. Price controls end up screwing things over, because then what happens is now you have uncertainty built into a lot of companies. So basically, if you end up doing price controls on things, the incentive to invest in that industry goes down precipitously. And then what happens is people end up saying, you know what? No, if I can't make a buck doing this, I'm not going to do it, which means that now you have limited players that are going to be able to raise prices to another degree. Free market. Everyone needs to goddamn read Adam Smith, man. Let the fucking free market do its job.
Big Adam Smith fan here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vitaly, what do you think about inflation?
Okay, so look, I'm not an expert at it. That's why I just dollar cost average into certain stocks that I like. But if I was to respond, around the internet, it's been going around. Have you seen the charts where inflation is peaking and as unemployment goes up and all that? Have you seen those charts?
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, as unemployment is going up, not yet, it will with basically inflation coming down, but interest rates going up. What happens is the Fed starts to pivot. But when that pivot happens, stock market doesn't do well. It actually goes down. The S&P starts to go down. This has been going around. This is what's been happening throughout the history. And I actually think this sounds very plausible. So if I was to make a guess for 2023, half the year is spent going down for the most part. I'm not saying this bear market rallies. That's going to happen, obviously. And you can make some money in it. You can short, you can go long, whatever you want to do. But that's an opportunity, I think, for me to like buy heavier into Enphase when it does eventually go down, buy heavier into Tesla as it's even going down further, which I think might happen. So I do foresee that happening.
If Enphase goes to 200, there's gonna be a lot of people that watch this pod that buy that fucking stock.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
You better be right on this thesis.
No, they're not.
They're gonna say,
I'm telling you,
I'm gonna buy it.
No, they're not, and they're not, because it's overvalued. If you do just the PE at $200, it's an overvalued company still.
So then when do you want to buy it?
I'm buying it under 220 and 200 and 180. I already have buys set up all the way down to basically 120. It's just I have buys set all the way down. I don't even watch it. It's whatever's going to happen is going to happen to those buys. But people like you who have not wanted to buy at 140, you're not going to want to buy at 200. Even if it tanks, you're just going to think, oh, this can go lower. So that's the problem with going short on something, because you're always thinking it's going to go lower.
Get a better price.
You're always going to get a better price until
they say that if you don't believe the thesis or if you don't believe the story, the price is always too high, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
all the people in the comments,
they're going to say it's 50% off. You see, people are selling out. It's not this growth piece.
Yeah. What like right now? Remember at Tesla was 1,200. I was like, oh, I wish I bought Tesla at 500. Remember that? I wish I was buying Tesla. Nobody's buying Tesla.
Nobody's
it's like
buying
me and you were buying it. Two people basically.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying Tesla, and I've spent tens of thousands already on Tesla.
I know.
As it went down.
Money. Too much.
We want to end it out with that Meta discussion.
Oh yeah,
Carlos, are you ever going to change your mind on Meta ever?
Change my mind in what sense?
In the sense of you have a really weird argument for why you don't like Meta. That's not backed up by any argument other than your ideology around Zuckerberg.
But it's not. It's not an ideological thing. It's something where if someone like Zuck is spending so much money trying to build what his next S curve is, there's a reason why. What is he spending? 10 billion a quarter or something on this thing? 10
billion a year, roundabout.
10 billion a year on it. I think obviously he has access to all of the information. It's to me like the company that we were discussing earlier, Arcimoto, was while their stock was tanking, they kept talking about all this money that they had. They kept talking about private financing. Don't worry about the money. We've got the money, right? And we come to find out that, their financial situation was a lot more dire than we thought it was. I think that's a bit of what this amount of spending against what the investors and the board or what even the general public thinks of the metaverse. I think it's a sign that Meta is not necessarily as financially strong as we may think it is on the outside. From the advertising business alone. Like advertising makes money, but that's not the way that you continue to grow and grow and grow, right? And so I think the fact that he's making and willing to bet so much of the company on that means that they're struggling or that there is trouble on the horizon that he needs to get ahead of. I do feel that, and we've had this conversation. Oh, and and I think even you guys have even conceded maybe Apple will be the #1 player in VR, right? Maybe they will come in with their headset and they'll take over and be VR. And we say, okay, well, maybe Meta will be #2, but Microsoft's making a play in this as well. It's kind of, I see it as kind of like the streaming wars, right? You have Disney. They're going to be making a play as well. I just don't know that Meta is going to be that company. They've tried several times to become a product company and it's never worked. And I think this is a big, big gamble. It's a big pivot for a company like that. This mature to make that pivot. I just don't believe it, right? I see this data and I don't believe the story. I believe that we would have seen more signs that this metaverse is going to be a bigger deal than we think it is. And I haven't seen that. And that's why I believe that, yeah, in terms of as an investment, I think that Facebook is not, or Meta is not a growth company anymore. They're a value stock.
Well, yeah, the thing is, I agree with a lot of what Carlos says because, well, in terms of that, Meta has proven, first of all, that they do sell VR. They're the only ones who are making any money on VR because everybody else is totally screwed. Google has messed it up completely. They invested in, does anyone know off the company offhand that they invested in?
Google?
Yeah, they invested in a VR play. Totally, it's not even existent. It's
But
like a $3,000 set. Hold on.
Is that a sign that these companies?
Apple, if they do come out, once again, it's that fallacy that it's day one. We have 5 years until there actually any competition for what Zuck has created at this point. What he did was a lot. This is what I keep going. Chris, maybe Chris will back me up at least on this one, that he's spent 10 years doing this when everybody else was ignoring it. So you guys are not, at least Carlos is not giving enough credit for the 10 years spent to develop it. So I feel that's where it's wrong. But even if they become a #2, they're not going to be a #3. They're probably going to be a #2 if Apple does eventually come in and they're 5 years out.
You don't think Disney? You don't think Disney?
Disney's losing money on trying to compete with Netflix. Disney's trying to lose money, compete with Netflix. Microsoft just recently
Disney's the #3 streamer now.
Yeah, but they're losing money against Netflix. So, and in fact, that's why their stock tanked recently, really hard. But anyway, that's not happening with Disney. That's a total far-fetched thing. It's either Apple, basically nobody. Microsoft does have HoloLens, which is around $3,500, and it's like a dev kit. And recently, they came onto Meta's thing, and they're releasing all their apps for Meta. So they see that, hey, Facebook is leading this. We should at least have our apps on it. Did you guys see that or no? Yes, I think Chris is asleep.
But look, but ultimately, we know that this is basically.
You were muted. You were muted.
He was getting something to share on screen. You want me to share, Chris?
Yeah, go for it. So one of the things that I think Zuck has done very well, that a lot of people don't necessarily give him a lot of credit, is that even before he announced that this was going to be a big play, he's been acquiring. Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to call it, has been a serial acquirer of a lot of companies that do work with VR. So if you look at all the ones that they've done, so they've kind of built in this ring wall, this firewall of developers that are already creating value for Oculus, right? A lot of the companies like look at one of the most popular things, VR, like Beat Saber, right? Beat Saber is super popular for VR. Guess what? It's something that's on the Quest, right? So I think a lot of times people always just assume that it's just a product, but no, it's also the developer community around it. And I think Facebook, being that they're first to the market, has done really well. If there is a bear case on Facebook or Meta, whatever, I keep having to say that, but it's around their core business, which is being impacted with their war with Apple and Meta right now, whether you want to talk about it or not, they're at war. Like the way that Apple has become like almost like, what's the word?
Monopoly.
Well, yeah, they've become kind of a monopoly
It's costing them what? 10 billion a quarter?
10 billion a year. 10 billion a year right now.
I read that they have not posted a quarter above, what is it, 29 billion since their last quarter that was over 32 billion was the last quarter that Apple had that. So they're costing them what, 20 billion or 10 billion?
The problem
they're
here
spending on Reality Labs right there.
The problem though is that Apple, I think, may have overplayed their hand, because in the process of going after this new ad segment, a lot of developers right now are kind of pissed because a lot of them created business from this ad supported model. So what happens is when you open your phone and you say, when you opt out, you're basically tanking the business, right? So I think right now, Facebook is cheerleading that by saying, look, you guys can't do this. Like, you need to stop this. You can see it with Snapchat. You can see it with all sorts of other applications that are trying to sue Apple, because literally this entire ad-supported model is what's been driving the innovation in the developer space for a long time. And I don't know how Apple's going to deal with it. But one of the things that I was saying to on Twitter, I was like, you know what? At this point, if Apple wants to play this game, Facebook should just team up with Google and create a phone and start doing two things. One, limiting their presence on Apple products, because at the end of the day, with WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, if your phone can't do those functions, or the
not a phone,
or the support of the support, like the functionality support is terrible on an iPhone, that would compel people to switch to
I don't know. That's
an
the
Android
nuclear
phone.
option. That's the nuclear.
Yeah, no, that is the nuclear option.
I just want to just ask a question related to that. Okay, so when they talk about censorship on social media platforms, the constant defense is they're private companies and their terms of service they have the right to have their own terms of service, right? And so it can even supersede the Constitution, right? Because it's a private company.
Yeah.
Well, Apple's a private company, right? And you're saying developers can lash out and say, but you're hurting us in a way that's disproportionate, blah, blah, blah. But what's to stop Apple from saying, well, we're a private company and how we want our products used is how we want our products used. And we want to give consumers the right to opt out and not be tracked.
No, because Chris's argument is if those same developers are pissed at you, they're not going to use your new ad network or whatever when you screwed over their business. Like, developers were making millions off of Facebook. Small pizzerias were making hundreds of thousands off the targeting on Facebook ads, and all of that went to shit with iOS 14.5. And so I think they would be pissed off at Apple then at that point, and they don't want to use Apple Maps for their ads.
I think we should end with Chris. You had a good thing that I actually bought some shares because of you. You posted that TikTok is also sort of having some issues. I think we want to discuss that last bit.
Yeah. So right now, TikTok, if you look all over the country, there's Republicans and Democratic people with it. I mean, senators and House members that are actually saying, look, TikTok is not only a surveillance state, because everyone knows that there's surveillance built into TikTok at this point. It's no secret. Like, the FBI director came out with it, like the FTC came out with it. This is not like some kind of secret, like, cabal of things. It's a known fact that the Chinese are gathering the data and it's being sent back to China for whatever reason. The other problem is the societal damage that we're starting to see with TikTok is starting to become way more pronounced, where now you're seeing, in my opinion, when you look at some of the stuff that I've seen on TikTok, where it's the amplification of viewpoints that are destructive to this country. And if the country right now doesn't band together and start to say, look, we need to get these toxic, poisonous apps.
What's the probability that this act? Because I honestly think the probability is zero that TikTok gets banned.
I agree. It's like
I really don't think it's
of marijuana. It's something that comes up every time there's an election. It's a great thing to run on. It's a great thing to campaign on. It's a great thing to campaign on. It's a great thing to fundraise on. And then
you know how many millennials that are voting in 2024 would be pissed off if their influencer career
zero.
Hold on.
Amit,
the thing is, and I agree with you, when Trump tried to ban TikTok, there was no
that would have been the
alternative.
best time. That would have been the best time.
There was no alternative at the time. That was mainstream, right? Now they have options.
No, but Chris, the argument is wrong because you're not understanding like influencer culture. Building up a TikTok following is tremendously easier than definitely building up a YouTube following. We all know that. And then second of all, an IG Reels following, because again, IG Reels, you have to click the button to get into Reels. It's not the feed. TikTok is the feed. Right. So intrinsically, you get more followers on TikTok, even if the follower quality is shitty. So there are people making a lot of money off TikTok in the United States that just have, a decent 50,000, 100,000 account.
I don't think TikTok can match what Instagram and Google are going to be throwing at creators.
Well,
like
I think you're going to. When I brought that up, this is what's happening. Like boots on the ground, 5 states, southern states, right? Republican states.
Yeah, but Vitaly, it doesn't feel
are actually banned.
Are they going to get rid of TikTok from the United States of America that has like 100 million?
I don't know about that. That's not my bull case. But the fact that 5 states have already eliminated it from a certain the government organizations. So at least we know that.
What's the bull case? How does that affect Meta? If TikTok's not banned, how does that affect Meta?
Well, okay. First of all, if you make it harder, I think Chris had a valid point.
Just copies it.
Well, no, besides the copying, I'm saying Chris had a valid point on our Discord that he said that why would you want to build more? Like, why would brands want to build on TikTok if they think even for a little bit that it's going to be hampered in some way? So let's
because
say,
there's 100 million DAUs.
yes,
Like,
and
the
it's fine
attention
right
is
now.
there.
But let's say, 10 states, then 20 states. If there's an obvious pattern, I think a lot of companies might reconsider doing bigger campaigns
Just
in
like,
TikTok.
just like they bailed from Twitter, right? When Elon Musk advertisers were fine losing the money to make the case, right? To make the statement.
Yeah,
You know, Joe
yeah.
Rogan, Rogan the other day read TikTok's terms of service, and the amount of data that they collect is unbelievable. He actually read it.
Yeah, but it's the same for any app. I think that was
This
that's
was
bullshit. Like
above and
every
beyond.
app.
But the difference is it's not going to a Chinese Communist Party that's basically trying to fuck your country over. I mean, there's a big difference
That's
between
true.
Mark Zuckerberg trying to sell you an extra pair of shoes from whatever versus the Chinese saying, you know what? How are we going to feed these guys these fucking
Well,
divisional
TikTok's
bills?
but TikTok's argument though is that all of that goes to an Oracle database in Singapore and
Bullshit.
Virginia.
Bullshit,
Yeah,
dude.
yes,
Bullshit.
yes.
They can say
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
they want. They'll say whatever they want to try to keep themselves within the thing. The other thing is, what brand wants to be affiliated with TikTok if you know that the fucking CCP is behind it? Like
Well,
right now,
right now, I agree with Amit. They do. They don't care. Brands just want the money. I'm just saying,
Unless there's an activist movement, they're going to keep.
if more
they're gonna
people
keep-
ban it, though, if more people continue banning it, like another 5 states add or 10 states, if that actually does there's some movement, then I can.
But
see
you
an
guys
actual
got to
situation.
remember this. The state didn't ban it. The department, they're not allowing it on their employees' devices for in North Carolina, wherever the fuck that happened. There's millions of people using TikTok right now.
Yes,
Because TikTok's a thing. Like my Meta bull case is not contingent on TikTok going away.
I agree too.
But I do agree that I find myself using it less, and I think more people might if they don't.
That's the one thing
if
too.
they see
If you look at the engagement numbers, Instagram's engagement numbers have been trending way higher to the point where I think was on the Google App Store that there actually are now there's more downloads of Instagram than there are of TikTok, which if you go back 7 months ago wasn't even close. TikTok was at the top. So you're starting to see a transition right now among creators, among brands to say, look, back in the day, you didn't necessarily have an alternative. I think Instagram is providing that alternative to TikTok. That's not the CCP. That's worth pursuing, and I think TikTok can end up. Yeah.
Can you show that? Can you show that?
I should send this.
No, I'm doing it right now. I got it. Wow, we're on the same mindset.
And so
The
we
most
keep talking-
downloaded app. Yeah, that thing. Yeah.
We keep talking about like Facebook failing or Meta failing.
Guys, don't look at the pictures below. Vitaly's dick pics are there, so please don't look at those. This is our WhatsApp group. You can't see his dick pics.
I can see the boobs. I can see the boobs.
You deleted it before I saw it. You deleted it before I saw that in the WhatsApp group.
Oh wait, there are boobs there. Oh
yeah, that's the first thing that came up.
Yo, that day was a funny day.
Oh man.
No, but listen, that picture that Vitaly sent was deleted from the group before I saw it.
It was
And then
an
the
actual
other day,
dick pic, guys.
Bro, Vitaly
the
said, all right,
other-
hold
All right,
on,
I don't
no,
wanna get
we're
into
gonna
this.
talk. We're gonna say this.
No. We're not getting
Tell
into
the
this.
70 No.
Don't get
Everyone,
into
I'm
this.
muting all of you right now.
No, move on.
78 people that were here. See, you're muted. See, this is why it's cool to be a host. I don't know what I said one day. I said, I said, guys, send me your pics. I need to make a thumbnail. This is the first day of the podcast. Vitaly sends a dick pic, and this dick pic is one of the most phenomenal dick pics I've seen in my life. And I'm like, V, is that you, bro? Are you really packing that much? Like, this is insane. And then he deletes it. He's like, no, that's off Google. And I was like, damn, bro, because if that was you, like, that would be impressive. That would be more impressive than your Enphase investment. That's all I'll say. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, if I had that D, then I wouldn't be on this podcast.
That's true.
This is for dudes who have a hard time getting laid.
Okay. Anyway, Instagram. So on Google, it's more than TikTok at 35 million, iOS, TikTok at 22 million, and then combined total. So 50 to 48. It's pretty close.
Hold on.
This
I
is-
I just want to finish this. So that picture was deleted from the group before I got a chance to see it. And I saw that it was deleted. I was like, oh, he probably sent a dick pic. But then 2 days later, I was going through some pictures on my phone with the nanny so I could show her some pictures of the kid. And WhatsApp downloads the pictures to my phone. The nanny was like,
Carlos, is that yours? No, it's my friend.
I forgot what's that automatic.
Okay.
I turned
It
that shit off a
automatic-
while
yeah,
ago.
that sounds like
let's wrap it up. Okay, this has
That
gone
sounds
crazy.
like that sounds like a story that you could actually believe is on Pornhub. You know, where the guy is like
That's
showing
so
like,
funny,
ooh.
bro.
All right, let's wrap it up with it. Just look at the combined total. If you look at it, you would say, "Oh, TikTok is clearly winning." But look at number 2, 3, 5, and 9. Isn't it crazy that Facebook takes the 4 places out of 10 in still downloading apps? Like, and I'm curious, who is downloading Facebook at this point? Like a 3-year-olds? I don't know who's downloading.
All right, put in the chat if you knew what Sheen was, because Vitaly did not know what Sheen was. Carlos, did you know what Sheen was?
It's Shine. It's Shine. Yeah.
It's a
Shine.
Chinese let me go to their website right now. It's a Chinese e-commerce app with very it's like fast fashion essentially.
So it's basically Facebook and Chinese apps that are in the top 10. It's kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah. It's just look at this. Look, free shipping on orders above $10. Like that's how cheap
it's like Wish for clothes.
Yes, but and the clothes are kind of okay. I mean, for women, I ordered like a shirt from it once. It was whatever, but girls love it a lot.
It's fast fashion, but dude, the quality of the clothes is garbage. Like you could literally wear this maybe like twice, 3 times, and then it's gone.
But that's actually becoming a thing. That's what, like for Zara, they're saying that it's actually like disposable clothing. You buy a shirt for $10 and you're meant to replace it. You wash it once or twice and you throw it away.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Bring that up again, just to wrap this up. That everyone who thinks Meta is dead. I mean, 4 out of 10 apps are still downloaded basically every month in the top 10. You know.
That's a lot, bro. And it's crazy how Facebook, like 3-point-something billion people have Facebook and 40 million people downloaded Facebook again November. Like,
yeah.
But I mean, I think it would make sense that social media apps in general are going to do better than almost any other type of app.
No, but who's downloading Facebook? That's what I got. Like, don't you have it? I mean,
okay.
It seems like it's on everybody's phone.
But every time, you know, if you go and you buy a new phone, I mean, there's a million reasons why you might have to download Facebook again.
Maybe.
I downloaded Facebook like about 2 months ago because I wanted to use Facebook Marketplace. Marketplace is awesome, dude.
Marketplace is awesome.
Yeah.
So bro, Facebook news is not that bad too. I find myself scrolling through articles sometimes. Like it's not horrible. It's actually dating. They have dating now. They introduced that to me the other. I don't use it, but I was like, oh, interesting. It's like Tinder.
You should.
I'm not interested in dating right now.
Most of the dating apps have you authenticate yourself through Facebook. Anyway.
Yeah,
it's just a way of knowing that you're a real person.
Roger the dog. Marketplace is where I go to get my drugs.
Ranger the dog.
Like I'm getting a table. Nope.
Brian P says I'm 36. No Facebook.
Well, Brian P, you're missing out because lots of ladies on Facebook. What can I say?
You could date on Facebook now. Downloads are pointless. Look at new accounts, not downloads. I guess we would put like
that is true. That is true. That's
3 billion. They have 3 billion monthly active users, dude. They're running out of people at this point.
even if you put a 30% conversion from download to account, that's still another 5-6 million people using it every month. It's not bad.
Yeah. No. That's the funny thing. They're still gaining people. Like the last quarter, they actually gained people. I'm like, honestly, even I don't get who doesn't have it. The only thing I want them to do is not gain more people. Is to just monetize those people better. Like I said, an extra $1.
Oh, yes. Let me end it real quick. Or Chris, go ahead, and then I'll do.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't realize this, but Marketplace actually does 2 forms of additional revenue generation for them. One, by being able to be in the middle with the transactions where they can actually take a cut of them, but also when you search for something, there's an ad. Yeah, that's right.
Let me show you right now. I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I just noticed that too, that there are ads now for. I was looking for guitars in the Marketplace, by the way, and I was like, oh, I need another guitar. But then a bunch of ads for guitars.
Yeah. And it's such brilliant targeting because now you're looking for a specific item and now the conversion is probably like right there. So if I'm looking for, let's say, a treadmill, right, which I was looking for, now I can say, well, you know what, there's a new treadmill for this much. You know what, instead of getting it from someone for a used price, I could just buy a new one from this company. And I'm sure that they're paying because it says sponsored right there.
How do you know? Yeah, where does it say sponsored? The text is
usually at the very top. The first couple of them are going to be sponsored.
I don't. Yeah, let me do it without the search and the regular one, because yesterday I was seeing a bunch of them sponsored.
I do it in my app. I'm not sure about the actual.
Yeah,
website.
I do it in my app.
No, I saw a bunch of sponsored ones yesterday on my laptop. I mean, on my computer. Let me type in laptop. Let's see what else comes up.
I don't think I've ever used Marketplace on the actual in a browser.
There we go. Look at this. So right here, Lenovo, get way more laptop. Like, look at that ad. Look how that's like Google search level shit, bro. I type in laptop and boom, there's a laptop ad right there.
Yeah. So it's kind of
I mean-
amazing all these businesses they're finding from things that you would think they would never monetize properly. But
Look,
they're
another
And then
figuring
look,
it
look at
out.
this one. Look at this one. Stu Docu is a great way to upload your notes, and there's a laptop in the fucking ad, which is why their AI probably recognized. Maybe it's not the best ad, right? But
And now that you
mean-
said laptop 5 times, that's all you're going to get now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Better than saying dick pic 5 times.
Oh, right.
bro, Vitaly, I was so impressed by it. And then you just told me it was fake. And I was just like, I literally, I was like, I was with the Tristan, my video.
He's
I was
like,
Tristan, bro,
He's
you
like,
finished?"
what are you doing later?
Okay, all right. I want to end on this. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, said,
Oh, the
they now
challenge
have-
account. Someone asked about the challenge account. We are doing it. We are, someone. Yeah, what's up
Oh,
with
about
challenge account?
the 500 challenge account. Oh,
Yeah,
someone
we should
started
mention
a
that it's
500
happening this week, right?
Yeah, we already created our Fidelity counts. We just have to make like one more, and then we're gonna invest, and we'll make it public on the Google Sheet.
Yep.
And then we're good.
So is that how we're going to do it? We have to manually update on the Google Sheet what we do.
You have to put in your
Yeah,
trade.
pretty much.
Manually put
Or
in
you
what
could
we
just
do?
share your screen to show what your account.
No,
looks
you have
like.
to put in the trade in the Google Sheet, so we all
Okay.
track exactly the pie. The pie gets updated automatically.
Yeah.
Okay, look at this from Microsoft, LinkedIn CEO. We're kind of a massive social graph, and that graph has a variety of components. Nearly 900 million professionals. At any given time, those companies are posting anywhere between 14 and 16 million job openings. They said that. Where was the exact quote? There's a very specific quote. There was. Okay, the quote was they get 3. Oh, here it is, right here. Now to LinkedIn, we saw engagement. We have 875 million members. We are getting 3 members per second. Where the fuck is the quote? I don't know where the quote. Maybe I read it in a different
Search for 3, the number 3.
That's so weird. I thought I read it in this one. But they're getting 3 new members a second on LinkedIn. I guess my question here was to bring up: is LinkedIn the actual social network play hidden within Microsoft? It did about 8 billion of revenue last year, versus something like a Meta. Like, could you buy Microsoft and get access to a social play for less risk than buying Facebook?
I mean, you're saying as LinkedIn?
Yeah, as LinkedIn.
I mean-
like that's what I want to. LinkedIn, the network. That's what I want to talk
I
about.
don't know about I don't know how you use it, but in my business, I find that it's more like a bulletin board. I don't know people that get work off of LinkedIn. But again, that's the nature of my business, where it's all word of mouth and who you know. It's not, people aren't posting jobs for the type of stuff that I do. So I don't know that I'm the best person to speak to that, because that to me is like an IMDb. They tried to go that route too, to basically become the LinkedIn, and it's not. It's just
So you don't consume content on LinkedIn at all, ever?
content.
You know what? I started to.
Sometimes, like if a friend of mine will post something that they did, but most of the time they're simultaneously posting that on Facebook or Instagram, and it's just where I happen to catch it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was interesting to me. Vitaly, go ahead.
No, I said I actually started to recently use LinkedIn a little bit more, because I also think we're not using it well enough. That it's still early enough in LinkedIn in terms of the social graph where I feel you can get some traction. And I did post a couple of things, and I started getting traction, which was weird. It's like, because I never post.
There's 9 billion impressions given on LinkedIn, I think, like every month, and there's only 3 million creators. So like the consumption to creation, but like the problem is on LinkedIn, like you can't just post anything. Like you better not talk about religion or politics.
No,
like
no,
that
no,
shit,
it's nothing like that, right?
you
There's
got to
nothing
be
like
like in a certain way. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
And
you can't even, they don't even have hashtags. You can't do hashtag Enphase and do some analysis about it, because it's like, what's the point? Like on LinkedIn, no one gives a fuck, even though they should, right? Because it's
Right.
stocks and business. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting play that Microsoft has. They bought it for 22 billion in 2016.
I like some of the insights that employees can give about a company when they talk about LinkedIn, like when they announce new partnerships, when they talk about new hires that they just have. So I think like right now with Palantir and some of the other companies, I actually want to look at what their executive experience is, which is awesome. So if you look at like, you go to a company and you're like, you know what, I want to see what the senior leadership is. How many years of experience do they have? You're not necessarily going to get that from the investor relations page, but if you go back, you can go to LinkedIn and look it up, and you could see like, oh, this person was employed by, this company, that company. They were able to do this, they were able to do that. And then when you look at some of the new hires that they have, you can also see the experience and the type of talent that company is actually recruiting. I mean, it's very subjective. Don't get me wrong. Like, you can't really tell too much. Like, oh, just because this person went to Harvard doesn't necessarily mean they're like the highest quality of business operator either, right? But it gives you a level of insight that you might not necessarily had you just looked at their investor relations page and just done a basic like, paragraph of whatever they want to highlight and ignore the rest.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Good one.
All right, that's it. This was good. Fun pod. Talked about a lot of different things. Hope you all enjoyed. See you next week for Finance Junkies. Any departing words?
None.
I
feel like Chris is- I think Chris was about to be like dick pics. That was gonna be
Short everything.
short and now.
I'm not gonna short end phase. This to me, it's a fucking meme stock, dude. I've seen people lose
What?
money on meme
A
stock. I
meme
think
stock.
end phase is a meme stock.
Look,
Bro,
once again,
liter-
why don't you just say it's overvalued and stop saying silly things? Because then your whole plan is destroyed.
It's basically
anything
propped up
positive-
by.
Do you
Yeah, but
really
any-
think that Enphase is going to show up on Wall Street bets?
Oh, so ridiculous. You can say it's
Hey,
overvalued.
your
but to
boy
say it's a meme stock
PP,
is
your boy
silly.
PP is a big holder of Enphase. your boy Kevin Paffrath, your boy PP, he loves Enphase.
You know what? He's a millionaire. If there's anyone I'd rather follow, is Kevin Paffrath and
He makes
Chris.
$22 million a year, bro. That guy's he was on the and New York Stock Exchange ringing the bell.
Bro, did he ring the bell? Did he ring the bell?
Yeah, he rang the bell. There's a
Son
video
of a-
about it.
He rang the
It's
bell?
So,
Oh my
he rang
God.
the bell because he opened up PP. That's the if you open up a ticker on the fucking stock exchange, you get to ring the bell. And I didn't know how exclusive ringing the bell is. Like they don't let people even go near that floor. It's like a very elite
Oh,
part
Interesting.
of Wall Street.
Well,
yeah, it's pretty cool. Shout out to Kevin.
it makes me feel good because maybe one of us will one day be up there ringing a bell.
That's a
for-
life goal.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
is.
that'd be pretty
And
cool.
Not
our
if you keep
ticker
buying
is
Enphase.
PPEEE. Just FYI. Okay.
What's PE? Or what's PE?
PP. Our ticker is
Oh.
PPEE.
Or poo poo. P-O-O.
Yeah, poo poo. That's what we would.
Poo.
Or DP. Yeah, you figure that out. Okay, guys.
Oh
See you
man,
later.
yeah, we should
All right.
go.
Thank you guys. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Later.
All right.